Hey, Luca here. Today I want to cover something personal on which I've been reflecting lately about my own expectations and happiness. This is something that helped me personally, and I hope it helps those of you who are reflecting on the year that passed and on resolutions for the new one. And if you're new here, my name is Luca. I'm a startup founder and engineer turned content creator. I run a newsletter for more than 100,000 engineers and managers, which you can find at refactoring.fm. And of course, I run this YouTube channel. So back to this happiness idea. I consider myself a cheerful person, and I have always kind of been. If there exists a baseline level of happiness for people, I have to be blessed to have a high one. And of course, I'm a lucky guy. I'm in a decent physical shape, I have no particular illnesses, I have a good family, and I work on things that I love. So you might be thinking, Luca, of course you're happy, right? However, I know also plenty of people who are better off than me in most of these areas, and yet they're not happy. Not only that, I also know people who haven't had as much luck or success, and yet they radiate so much energy and joy to make me look like a sad panda. Now, you may argue that we can't really know other people's lives and what's going on in their lives, so these observations are shallow at best, which is fair, of course. But even when you account for that, it is safe to say that some people handle what life throws at them better than others. And the way I see it is that the things we have going on in our lives are just one piece of the happiness puzzle. The other one is expectations. We are happy whenever we perceive our reality to be better than how we expected it to be. Of course, this is just one way to look at it. There are plenty of models and metaphors for happiness, and for example, I'm a big fan of The Elephant and the Rider by Jonathan Haidt. But I found this to be particularly useful, so let's stick with it for a moment. If this was an equation, it would be happiness equals reality minus expectations. Because our brain is constantly evaluating the reality we're in and comparing it to our expectations about such reality. And the more reality exceeds expectations, the happier we are. Conversely, the higher our expectations compared to the actual reality, the more miserable we feel. As simple as that? Not exactly. Because the tricky thing is that expectations don't stay put. They adjust over time to match reality. And this is both a blessing and a curse. It means that both positive and negative events in life do not necessarily result in a permanent gain or loss of happiness. This tendency goes by the name of hedonic treadmill, and it has been studied extensively since the late 70s and since the famous Lottery Winners and Accident Victims paper by Brickman et al. So I'm quoting the paper now. Adaptation level theory suggests that both contrast and habituation will operate to prevent the winning of a fortune from elevating happiness as much as might be expected. Study 1 compared a sample of 22 major lottery winners with 22 controls and also with a group of 29 paralyzed accident victims who had been interviewed previously. As predicted, lottery winners were not happier than controls and took significantly less pleasure from a series of mundane events. So, the fact that our expectations adjust explains why happiness seems such a moving target. This adjustment, however, takes some time. In my experience, expectations tend to lag behind reality, so the faster our reality changes, the more this delta can become temporarily large, resulting in spikes or dips of happiness. For example, winning the lottery, like in the study, results in a big temporary spike. And conversely, getting rich gradually over many years doesn't bring nearly the same level of excitement. Which is like when you lose weight over a long period of time. You don't see it when you look at the mirror, you see it when you look back at your pictures. I can also make a personal example about refactoring, because last year all my dreams literally came true. I went full-time on the newsletter and I'm now living off my 1,002 fans, which is insane, I swear, I get it. But do I feel all that different than before? I mean, maybe. Am I noticeably happier than 1 year ago? Probably, I'm not sure. And that's because this change happened over so long that my mind had plenty of time to adjust and trick me into thinking this was the new normal. Now, interestingly, people from the outside have a totally different perception of our reality. They don't live it every day, so their perception of time is compressed. During the festivities late last year, I got in touch with relatives that I had not seen for 6 months or even 1 year. And I told them the refactoring progress and their reaction was wow. Which is like back to the previous example when you lose a lot of weight and somebody sees you after a long time. So how can we use these ideas to become happier? If you trust the equation, we have two ways of becoming happier. We can either improve our reality or reduce our expectations. So you can tell I'm good at math. However, since the two converge over time, you also have to figure out ways to do this constantly so that you always keep a healthy, positive gap between the two. Now, many people work hard to improve their reality while also allowing their expectations to inflate. And the way I see it, this is just the wrong strategy, because if anything, your expectations are 100% under your control, while reality is not. We all meet setbacks, bad luck, and more generally, we may not achieve what we want or deserve. In comparison, keeping expectations in check is way easier. And here are 3 solid ways to do so. The first one is keeping a journal, then practicing gratitude, and finally, focusing on the journey. Let's look at all 3. Let's start by journaling. Because remember the example about losing weight? People take pictures of themselves along the way or just before they start, so they stay aware of their progress. Such awareness makes them more motivated and simply happier because they never lose perspective of their progress. Now imagine not having those pictures. Imagine losing 30 kilograms and totally forgetting how you were before. Well, this is how you live your life when you do not keep a journal. I know this might sound overly dramatic, but really, people do amazing things all the time and then fail to recognize them. They do not give themselves credit simply because they do not realize how much progress they made. Keeping a journal counters that. I won't go into details about how you should or shouldn't do it because there are plenty of ways and everyone should find their own style. But there are 2 main habits you should implement, in a way or another. The first one is to write regularly, ideally every day. Just write down what you're thinking, interesting things that happened, or anything really. People do so early in the morning or before going to bed, but it's up to you to find your own way. And the second thing is review periodically. Set recurring times to review what you wrote. Reviewing might just mean reading things back, and you can do so weekly or monthly or quarterly or any cadence you like. And that's it. 90% of it is just writing and reading back. Simple enough. And when you do this for long enough, 2 main things happen. The first one is you become more sensitive to what happens around you, and you will find more and more things to write about. Because writing is like a muscle and it comes from your thinking. The more you write, the more your thinking improves. And the second thing is that you start recognizing patterns about yourself, about things that worry you, about things that give you joy. You simply get to know yourself better. Changes that happen over a long period of time, both good and bad, are tough to spot. So being able to review your thoughts over months or years is a superpower. Spotting bad trends allows you to take action, but also spotting good trends is equally useful because you might see how you overcame your fears or you achieved more in life than you realized, which in turn develops gratitude, which is the most powerful way that I know to keep expectations in check. So let's talk about it. I keep my daily routine very lean. In the past, I've been guilty of setting overly complicated habits just to scrap them after a few months because they were 100% unsustainable. But one of the few that stood the test of time is exactly about gratitude. Every day before I start to work, I write down something I'm grateful for. When I started about 2 years ago, I naturally focused on the big things: family, health, work, you name it. And I still come back to them sometimes, but since I don't want to repeat myself too much, over time I started being grateful for smaller and smaller things, like receiving the call of a friend, or like today for getting better at blitz chess lately. It's true. Being grateful for something means not taking it for granted, which is like lowering your expectations. It forces you to be aware of what you already have, so you don't raise the bar of your expectations uncontrollably, which in turn makes you happier. So let's talk now about enjoying the journey, because we all make investments expecting them to pay off in the future. We may sacrifice something today to get something more tomorrow, and more often than not, this is a good play. But there is a flip side. It is risky to do something you don't like for a long time, just because of some ideal reward at the end. Seen through the lens of our equation, you are making your current reality worse, while also increasing your expectations about the future. Which, when it comes to happiness, it's like shooting yourself in both feet. Furthermore, the outcome you wish for might either never materialize or not be as good as you expected. So I'm all for playing long games, but a key difference from when I was younger is that now I focus on those I also enjoy playing rather than just winning. Because great outcomes might eventually come, but even if they don't, hey, it's been a hell of a good ride. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this, and as always, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this chat valuable, you can subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leaving a review, as that really helps other listeners find the show. You can find all past episodes and learn more about the show at refactoring.fm. See you in the next episode.